From the 27th of December 2008 to the 18th of January 2009, Israeli forces launched a massive aerial and ground bombardment on Gaza in response to Hamas rocket fire towards southern Israel. I set out, as a member of a European Parliament mission, to view the damage caused during the war for myself and to try to assess whether there had been breaches of international humanitarian law during the recent hostilities. Having seen the extent of devastation to homes, schools and factories, it is evident that there was a disproportionate response on behalf of the Israeli Defense Forces to the initial Hamas provocation. With over 1,440 people killed on the Palestinian side, greater efforts should have been made to minimize civilian casualties. Nearly half of all fatalities were women and children. The economy of Gaza has almost shut down, with 98% of industrial operations now crushed.
We have a cooperation agreement with the Israeli company. We're backing in Israeli package. It's written by Hebrew.
Right.
And they know that it's the only factory. There was meaning to destroy it. If you come, you can see.
Is it physically possible to reconstruct it, or
actually it's gonna be hard, and I think it's quite dangerous.
So it's actually destabilized as well. It's actually up out of the ground.
Yeah. Actually, we need to cut this huge tank. We need to cut it and get.
Okay, they get out from the tanks and they put the bomb around the columns. You can see it here.
The explosives in under, you see.
We want in the future from all the world, from all the friends in the world, to help us to have guarantees that if we rebuild these factories, no one will damage it. And we don't want to go out. We don't want to leave this country. If we leave it, we will face, all the world will face, not only us. Because the employment will be, today the employment is 90%. If we leave, the employment will be 100%, okay? The tourists will be more because the people wouldn't find to eat, okay? They have nothing to do. So when you don't have food for your children, when you don't have money, when your son or your daughter asks you for $1 and you couldn't get it to him, it's crazy. You can do anything.
In food distribution centres like the one we viewed in Jabalia refugee camp, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency are attempting to feed 900,000 refugees at the rate of 30,000 individuals per day.
This is the most affected area. We have more than 1,000 families displaced, who lost their shelters, lost their house, more than 1,000.
However, food is being impeded by Israeli authorities, as is other humanitarian aid. Israeli officials must expand their present definition of what they consider to be humanitarian, so that further necessities can be allowed through. There must be an immediate, unconditional reopening of all Gaza crossings.
You see, for example, here, the quantity of the ration is very clear on this slip, on the kabon. So milk, 1 kilo, sunflower, 2 liters, luncheon meat, 2 box, rice and sugar, 3 kilos. When we distribute food assistance, we exclude UNRWA staff and Palestinian Authority staff, and another category, we call it high income people. But this round, because of this difficult economical situation and the war, okay, Mr. Jong-un took a great decision and he decided to distribute food assistance to all Palestinian refugees living in Gaza Strip. Except UNRWA staff, Mr. Jong-un decided just to provide them 2 flour bags.
We met with Irishman John Ging, Director of UNRWA Operations in Gaza.
Let's try to cut away the rhetoric and get down to the simple truths. There was a round of violence here for a number of weeks that was predicated on the premise that, yes, it's all about destroying the infrastructure of terror. However, let's look at what action was taken in pursuit of that stated agenda, stated policy. The American school was destroyed. It was destroyed under the banner of the infrastructure of terror being destroyed here in Gaza. And you can see it.
Fanatics from both sides, or the Israeli government and fanatics from the Palestinian, have agreed to target the same place. We have been targeted 3 times by militant group saying that we are so open, educating the kids in ways that they don't believe in, and therefore they targeted the school. They kidnapped once a teacher. And last time it has been targeted during ex-President George Bush to West Bank.
Here at UNRWA, my staff came back to work from those who were in the education program after the fighting, proud, very proud, that we had not lost any time in the development of our new human rights curriculum. A curriculum, by the way, that will teach the children the difference between legitimate resistance and illegitimate resistance. The reasons why it is so wrong to fire rockets into Israel. We're facing all of this down in our schools because we're trying to tackle the growth of extremism. And that's where it's at. The mindsets. We can talk all we like about the destruction of infrastructure and so on and so forth, but the biggest destruction is occurring in the mindsets of the people here. And they are minded at the moment to go the civilized path, but they are being pushed down another path by their circumstances. But to print those textbooks, we're not allowed to bring in the paper. You know, really. And so who's fighting extremism? And who is helping extremism? So many kids were killed, so let's focus on them. We don't have to talk about, whether it's 312 or 402. Hundreds of children are dead in 3 weeks. They were undisputably innocent. Nobody disputes that. Undisputably innocent children. For the mothers and fathers here, they want accountability for the deaths of their children. And they don't have to beg for it. They're entitled to it. Ultimately, it is the responsibility of the international community, of the high contracting parties to the Geneva Convention, to take effective action to ensure that there is accountability coming out of this conflict. If you're a mother and father and you've lost your child, how are we to hold them and say, hold on, there will be justice? Because their answer is where? Where's the mechanism? The Israeli answer to the death of a child is, they were being used as human shields. So we have no accountability for that. Wrong. In the civilized world, we don't shoot the hostage to get the hostage taker. On the face of it, there is a case to be answered. And if there isn't credible accountability, then how are we going to say to the people here, don't go over to the way of getting your own justice? Because the preamble on the Universal Declaration concedes to that point. It has to come back to equality of the application of the rule of law. The people in Israel who were killed, the injuries, the destruction that occurred, no less standard of accountability is required for that than there is for what happened here. And it's actually the same standard. And that's where our challenge lies. How do we restore to this conflict confidence in an effective, credible mechanism for accountability? We're feeding 900,000 refugees at the moment. We're feeding them at the rate of 30,000 per day. We have the infrastructure here that can accommodate 3 or 4 times that rate, but we don't have the food. The fact of the matter is there's only one crossing point open today for the importation of supplies, whereas last year, in the same security environment, i.e. with Hamas in charge of Gaza, we had 2 crossing points open, which were wholly and totally inadequate, I can tell you, for the needs of the people, but there you are. And the result is that there are thousands of tons of food and other donated items sitting in Egypt, Jordan and in Ashdod port in Israel that cannot be connected with the people that you met today, be it food, be it medicine, be it clothes, be it whatever. We're not talking about, in the first instance, an appeal to humanity, because that, provokes some sort of do we want to be humane? Well, they're all terrorists, blah, blah, blah. No, it's a legal obligation. So many people tell me you can keep your donations of food and medicine if you would just give us a perspective of justice. Just a perspective of justice. We will wait. We will wait here hungry, no problem, if we feel that justice is going to come. but there's nothing. Effective diplomatic action hasn't occurred. And the bottom line is, let's start with the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which defines our humanity in terms of whether you're civilized or you're not. We're all talking about terrorism and this and that and the other. Let's just take it out. And if you want to be part of the civilized community of nations, then you have to respect the Universal Declaration, you have to respect the Geneva Convention, and there are mechanisms for accountability under those. So where's that debate? Where is that debate? And that's a political debate. It's a diplomatic debate. But that's what diplomacy is all about. I mean, this can be solved with political will. It will never be solved through the barrel of a gun.
Inter-Palestinian reconciliation is paramount at present. We met with several Palestinian officials who spoke to us about the prospects for Palestinian national unity, including Mr. Salam Fayyad, Prime Minister of the Palestinian National Authority.
Two-state solution is at risk. The two-state solution is about to become no longer feasible, and all of this is true. Because of settlement activity, because of this continued colonization, expropriation of land, two-state solution to us means a Palestinian state on the territories occupied in 1967. No if, but, or wherefore about that, and that's what should be understood. So, if I start with that, and it's basically because settlement activity, settlements and continued settlement activity pose the greatest risk from a material point of view for sure, to the possibility and continued viability of the concept of two-state solution.
Many families living here next to the Ibrahimi Mosque that they have to use this access to their homes. You have to imagine in case of emergency, what's the situation here. You have to imagine in case of transferring some furniture, refrigerator, washing machine, whatever, how it could pass from here. We have to go to the left in order to go to the other side, and a certain period of time we were not allowed to go back. Now they allow us to go back.
This is what has become of Gaza. Not that Gaza was doing very well before the Israeli offensive. It wasn't. It wasn't because of a siege, or because of a closure regime that essentially locked up 1.5 million Palestinians in what is without doubt what has become the world's largest open-air prison. That reconstruction cannot take place effectively unless and until those passages are reopened, and I would say, importantly, and I will explain what I mean by that, the siege is lifted, because reopening the passages sometimes is mentioned as a requirement, suggesting that if Israel says the passages are open under current regime, that will be understood to be adequate. It will not be adequate, because basically the system of closure that Israel has been adopting, certainly in Gaza now, highly restrictively, is one that is based on the notion that certain things are allowed and everything else is not. That's not how trade and commerce take place. Trade and commerce take place exactly the opposite way. That in principle everything is allowed but for a short negative list. So the siege has to be lifted, meaning that whole regime should be changed. And this is especially true in Gaza, it's also true in the West Bank. I mean, this cumbersome system of restrictions, permit requirements, and what have you, this is highly suffocating.
I just came from Cairo. I was in the meeting of Palestinian groups who met in Cairo to discuss the issue of national unity. The most important thing we decided is that we now have officially moved the Palestinian situation internally from a situation of internal fight and internal struggle into a situation of dialogue and national dialogue. And that means 3 immediate steps. First, that there should be and there will be should be no media attacks against each other. All issues of differences have to be discussed within the ranks of dialogue. Second, we decided to immediately embark on ending the awful and shameful situation of political imprisonment, whether in the West Bank or in Gaza Strip. So there was a very clear decision that within and along the national dialogue internally, the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank should immediately release the Palestinian political prisoners, and Hamas government in Gaza should also release the political prisoners immediately, and that the actions of political arrest should stop immediately. All forms of violations of human rights and freedom of expression, whether by the government of West Bank or the government of Gaza, must stop. The third thing we decided is to form 5 committees. In each committee there will be representatives of all political parties, including our Palestinian National Initiative, which is an independent, as you know, party from both Hamas and Fatah. This is a turning point, a very good historical moment for us. And I hope this has been my dream, this has been our dream, this has been the Palestinian people's dream, which is how to get back to unity. Because without unifying us on democratic basis, without having our unity on the basis of accepting each other and tolerance and pluralism, we will not succeed. Meetings of the committees will start on the 10th of March and they should finish by the 30th of March. By that time, we have to decide to finish or solve the problems. Will we be able to or not? I don't know. I know one thing, that ourselves as a group and as people, we will do everything possible to push for reconciliation. Hamas is an important party. In the West Bank, the last poll showed they have 30-40% support. They have to be accepted in the political system. You cannot deny them that right. And the results of democratic future elections have to also be respected.
Hamas, it is true, on the blacklist as terrorist or whatever. When we have a government, we have to treat the government in accordance with its political program, in accordance with its platform that is submitted to the Legislative Council asking for the vote of confidence. We expect Europe or the United States to judge our government what is its political program. If it is a peace-oriented program, it should be supported, irrespective of who in that government. Now, we did not rule out the probability of having a technocratic government. But also, we don't rule out the possibility of a national unity government, as long as what is best for us. And we would ask you to support us for our choice that we believe is good for us. Judge us on the platform of that government, and we know from our immediate experience that we would only agree to a government that makes it easier for our people to deal with the international world, to make it easier for our people to regain its rights in accordance with the international consensus.
It will take considerable time to reconstruct Gaza. Money pledged on the 2nd of March at the donor conference in Sharm el-Sheikh will go towards such reconstruction. But what the people of Gaza want most right now is the freedom of movement over donations. I was struck by the incredible resilience of the people of Gaza and their ability to get on with life, because they just have to.